Kia ora and welcome along to the Met Service forecast for today, Wednesday the 21st of June. We've got some very active weather pushing it back towards those northern parts of the country. We've already seen some thunderstorms across the far northern parts of Northland. As we head through the rest of the day, we're going to find those showers, those thunderstorms and periods of heavy rain moving back down through Northland, Auckland and in towards, say, the Coromandel as well. But it is a fairly unsettled story. A big area of low pressure sitting out towards the north and the west of the country. You can see wrapping around that this core of wet weather feeding in towards Northland through the rest of this afternoon. On the eastern side, another feature, this front sitting through here is pushing onshore as well. And that's going to bring us some heavy rainfall through parts of Hawke's Bay up towards Gisborne, Tairāwhiti. And there are some watches and even a warning out for those areas as well. For the South Island, generally things are a little bit quieter, but even here we are going to find some wet weather as we head on into Thursday as well. But more thunderstorms up in the north and some more wet weather as well. As we head through the night time, you can see this, the low pressure system just moves a little bit further out towards the east, and that pushes that rainfall down towards Auckland through the night time in towards the Coromandel, while this next feature out towards the east just moves a little bit closer inland, and it keeps that feed of wet weather in towards the Coromandel, in towards the Bay of Plenty, in towards Tairāwhiti. But you can see down across those southern parts of the North Island, places like Wanganui, southern Taranaki, all right, might be more cloudy, but generally things are dry through the night time, and plenty of dry weather down across most of the South Island, a few showers up through parts of the Nelson region. But most of the night, I think, on the South Island is dry and still some clear skies, another cold and perhaps frosty one down in the far south. So you can see temperatures down there back down to around about freezing or so. A very different story in the North Island, but I think the temperatures are least of our concern as we go through the next few days. More wet and blustery weather across the north. So let's look at how Thursday plays out as we go through the daytime. So you can see as we head through Thursday, that low pressure is still close by. We continue to keep this wet weather feeding in towards the Coromandel, the Bay of Plenty, and in towards this eastern side of the North Island. And you can see as well that rain creeps down in towards the northern parts of the South Island as well. So places like Marlborough, particularly around that eastern coast of Marlborough, the Sounds, and also in towards parts of the Nelson region towards the end of the day. It's a wet story, still generally dry down in the far south. But I think we are going to find that there is more wet weather across the North Island, and there are some severe weather watches and even a warning in place across parts of the North Island. So watches for heavy rainfall for Northland, those northern parts of Auckland, north of Whangaparāoa, Great Barrier Island, the Coromandel, those western parts of the Bay of Plenty, say west of Te Puke, also up in towards the likes of the Ruahine Range and the Kawakan Forest Park. We've got a watch for you as well for heavy rainfall as we go through Thursday, even through in towards the weekend. And for Ward, southwards on that eastern Marlborough coast, there's a heavy rain watch for you as well from Thursday through in towards the weekend. That watch there runs right the way through in towards Saturday. The warning, though, the heaviest rainfall is for those northern parts of Tairāwhiti, north of Tolaga Bay, and we are going to find some heavy rainfall there, as much as 100 to 140 millimetres of rainfall about the ranges. More thunderstorms in the mix across those northern parts as well. So it is looking like a fairly unsettled story as we go through the rest of the day for Wednesday, but also through in towards Thursday. Here's the chart. You can just about make out the North Island through here, the driest and brightest weather perhaps down from, say, Taranaki down towards Wellington. More clouds here and still the chance of an isolated shower, but generally it's a wet story, especially around this eastern coast. This rain continues to feed through, some heavier falls in amongst the ranges through there. And I think we are looking at generally a wet story as we go through Thursday for that eastern coast. And you can see up across the north as well, it's still fairly wet, particularly for the Bay of Plenty and the Coromandel, and even across in towards parts of Waikato. Spells of rain through the daytime. The rain perhaps turning more showery through Northland and Auckland as we go through the daytime. But even here, I think we could still find some really intense bursts and some more thunderstorms as we head through the daytime. So I think really it's the case, if you're looking for the driest weather, it's down towards the south and out towards the west. But I think for many of us, it is looking like a rather cloudy day with spells of rain. In terms of our temperatures, we are still, I think, going to find highs back to around about 14 degrees Celsius, but our overnight lows still, for many of us, in double figures, nothing too cold at all. As we head down towards the South Island, we are going to find that there's generally drier weather, but we still got a fair bit of cloud pushing on towards this eastern side of the South Island, and also a fair bit of wet weather, or a fair bit of cloud, I should say, feeding in towards the likes of Nelson and those northern parts of Marlborough. As we go through the daytime, that cloud continues to thicken up, and we have got that severe weather watch out for that eastern side of Marlborough, with that rain just feeding in through there, and that's right the way through in towards Saturday. Generally drier and pretty decent down that western coast. So a fine story for most of Western down towards Fiordland. And we are going to find there's plenty of dry weather and some decent spells of sunshine through parts of Otago and southern Canterbury. But even here, I think we'll find it does turn cloudier through the daytime. And as that cloud thickens up in the afternoon through parts of Canterbury, we'll find a few spots of drizzle there. But I think we've still got some clear slots as we go through in towards the night time, overnight into Friday, down through the far south. So still pretty cold through here, but I think we are going to find further north temperatures are a little bit milder. So over the next few days, what changes? Well, the answer is not an awful lot. That low pressure stays out towards the north and it continues to direct a fairly brisk northeasterly feed of air in towards that eastern coast. So the first place it reaches, Wairarapa, Hawke's Bay, Gisborne, and the likes of, say, Marlborough. And that's where we're going to find the heaviest rainfall as we go through in towards that Thursday nighttime through to Friday. So it is very likely we could find some more severe weather watches and warnings as we head through Friday and on in towards the weekend as well, especially on that eastern side. So do keep an eye on the forecast and on those watches on the Met Service website. Down at that western side, generally the weather is improving for you, particularly up across the likes of, say, Northland and Auckland. Still a fair bit of cloud through there, but generally drier. But I think we are looking for the best of the weather down on that western coast of the South Island. That's it from me. This is from metservice.com.